Network Entertainment.
Right. Merong mga reports na lumabas leading into the Wyatt Sick6 debut na this group isn't meant to be supernatural, but clearly based on the presentation, there's a very strong supernatural element.
No, okay. Does it matter? Like, okay, supernatural or not, mortal or not, the fact remains that they still went around on a crime spree backstage. From the looks of it. So,
wait, what makes this crime different from the other forms of assault we've seen in wrestling over the years?
Well, nobody got left with a hole in their head, for one. Nobody got left for dead, diba?
Who's ready for story time?
What's going on? This is Xavier Woods, aka Austin Creed.
Let me talk to him.
Hello, WWE Universe in the Philippines. This is Charlotte.
Adam!
Hey everyone, this is Jeff Cobb.
I have to finish the story.
We are pretty deadly. Yes, boy. Yes, boy.
Run!
Bang! The sniper is shooting you down. This is TMDK's Robbie Eagles.
Hey, this is the Cosmic Cactus, Paul London.
Hello, my name is Ilya Dragunov, the Czar, the NXT champion, and you're listening to...
And you're listening to...
And you're listening...
And you are listening...
And you're listening
to the Wrestling Podcast.
The Wrestling Podcast.
The Wrestling Podcast.
The Wrestling Podcast.
To the Wrestling Podcast. Yeah.
You're watching and listening to the longest running weekly episodic Filipino wrestling podcast. This is the Wrestling Podcast. Stan C and Romora and the OGs on a Thursday night live stream. Thank you to everybody who's already here, whether you're watching us on the Facebook page or on the YouTube channel. If you're catching the audio-only version on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, thank you so much for making the Wrestling Podcast a part of your weekly wrestling diet. Now, if you're catching the podcast version, then I'm sure you missed yung pa-Joe Hendry theme ni babyface producer Jasper from backstage, really converting us into an actual radio show at this point.
I mean, it's a nice theme. Syempre, the first part is catchy, and then it goes into a weird power ballad, which I still can't explain, pero it works, you know. Pero yung viral part lang naman is yung simula eh. So
yeah,
he knew how to make a viral hook.
So for those of you who got your clap on, then that's great. Pag-usapan natin yan, yung Joe Hendry debut on NXT. I see a lot of you in the comment section believe in Joe Hendry. Pati kami, we believe in Joe Hendry. I actually watched NXT live and I marked out. But yeah, mamaya, let's get our thoughts on that in a bit. First, let's chill some stuff. And we're going to start with the brand new Wrestling Podcast t-shirt brought to us by Dwayne Manalastas and the fine folks at Everybody's Toys and Collectibles. Dwayne is actually in the comment section right now. Thank you so much for designing and for coming up with these beautiful new Wrestling Podcast t-shirts. They're still on sale right now and you can actually order them through this link. It is tinyurl.com/WWP t-shirt. Again, it is tinyurl.com/WWP t-shirt. Yan, sabi ni Emil, buy our merch. Like, please, Emil. Hindi mo tayo desperado rito eh. Please buy our merch. Diba?
People have been asking about the shirt kasi it looks really good. And the design is really good. Maraming salamat to the boss, Dwayne, and his people over at Everybody's Toys. So, if you, guys, super mura lang. Kasi you just have to make a down payment of $350 kasi the shirt is $700. If you order with us, down payment is $350, and then syempre pagdating ng shirt saka mo na babayaran yung isang $350. So saka pa, di ba? Kasi two gives yung yung t-shirt namin.
Yeah. Tingnan natin if we can work out a deal with Boss Dwayne so that these physical shirts will be at his next pop-up, di ba?
Oh, yeah.
He was at ToyCon last weekend. I'm sure for the rest of 2024, marami ng bookings and booths ang Everybody's Toys and Collectibles. So you might actually see it along with your favorite wrestling toys and merch at the Everybody's Toys and Collectibles booth or their store sa Shopsville Plus at the very top floor. Pag umakit ka sa tuktok, dun ka sa turn right ka lang. It should be the second or third store. Yung sobrang puti yung ilaw. You can't miss it. All right. Another thing we got to plug, of course, is our Patreon program, Ro.
All right, guys. Maraming ganap sa Patreon. So, first, syempre, we already just had our pasabays, our pasabay merch, our pasabay run, rather. Syempre, if you are able to be a part of the Patreon program, if you're a patron, you get preferential rates on the pasabays. Pero, syempre, uh, there are other things in store as well, like Discord, the access to our Discord community where there are a bunch of benefits, like VIP access to Globe customer service. Ang kapal, di ba? Tapos,
Globe Platinum levels yan,
oh,
man.
gago. May libreng iced tea, sabi ni France. What up, France? One of our newest patrons, from listener to event goer to patron. Maraming ganap. Syempre, there are also reviews, but that's free, of the weekly TV shows, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, syempre local shows as well. All of that good stuff if you subscribe to our Patreon program, patreon.com/wrestling podcast. The URL is on the ticker if you're watching this right now. It's only $5 or around 275, 280 pesos. Thereabouts, tumataas ang dollar or humihina ang peso. And it's getting worse. But it is still a really, really good investment. If you are a fan of the Wrestling podcast and what we do here on the show, all our events, all our content, if you have a few hundred pesos to spare for us, if you enjoy what we do, we would really, really appreciate it. You don't have to subscribe for too long. If you can't afford that much, syempre mahirap ng buhay ngayon. Thanks, Marcos. If you just want to say thank you for what we do, for keeping you company, or for keeping you updated, whatever it is. And just please do consider throwing a bone our way on Patreon, patreon.com/wrestling podcast for $5 or 275 around thereabouts pesos.
Ro mentioned yung pasabay. I actually completed yung order for the latest pasabay, and I'm happy to announce na meron tayong Wrestling Podcast gift pack once again.
Yeah.
And if you like the items that we put up for grabs during quiz night, like the Rhea Ripley towel, the Cody Rhodes weight belt replica, we have upped our game with a similar budget. Magugustuhan niyo yung mga items namin. Two things, Funko Pops and t-shirts, among others. So yan, kinasal na namin yan. It should be on its way to the Philippines in a couple of weeks. One last thing to plug, of course, some happy row noises.
Blast TV, mofos, bitch. All right, people have been asking, asa na ang Raw, asa na NXT, asa na SmackDown, asa na siya, asa na yung updated episodes. Here it is on Blast TV, www.blasttv.ph, bitch. It's here. It's free for Converge and Globe at Home subscribers. For everyone else, it's 179 pesos a month. It's really, really cheap, guys. This is the best way to support WWE right before we get it on Netflix. If we get it on Netflix, which I'm sure is going to happen. But until then, you don't have to pirate this. You don't have to go around the backs of the WWE and whatever have you. And then on top of WWE, there's also a lot of other content. There's NBA regular season. There's the Euro League. The NFL's coming up in a few months. There's The Good Place. There's The Office. Maraming good TV shows that if you are missing, you can find it all here, guys. www.blasttv.ph. Guys, let's make it happen because Mr. Ovation is fighting for his life here with Netflix knocking on his door. Diba? Yeah, Tap better pay us for promoting Blast TV.
Yeah, so there. All right, let's get to some actual wrestling talk. And we got to start with the Wyatt Sick6. They're here. It happened. Sabi ng mga reports na they would debut on the Raw after Clash at the Castle, Scotland. And debut they did. With a bunch of heads cracked open, blood splattered on the walls, chaos at Gorilla, and Jey Uso and Cathy Kelly appearing on Raw Talk afterward as if bodies did not drop on the floor. So, yun na nga, you've got Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas is underneath that, or Taylor Rotunda, however you want to refer to him. The returning Eric Rowan is Ramblin' Rabbit. Si Huskus the Pig is Joe Gacy. You've got Nikki Cross, obviously, as Sister Abigail, and Dexter Loomis in the Mercy the Buzzard role. So, ang daming questions coming out of it. And I think the first question we got to start with is, did people die?
Well, it seemed that way, but it certainly looked that way. First of all, we have to I like the little Brody Lee reference here with the bludgeon, ni hawak ni Eric Rowan as Rambling Rabbit. So that's pretty good. People are fixated with Bray Wyatt, which they should. But they didn't forget about Brody as well. Anyway, people look like they died. So naging crime scene yung yung gorilla position. Diba? So how do you move on from that? Like ano to? Is this like because I have one way to explain it, which is like everything that happened in that final segment is a fever dream, a collective fever dream ng audience. Like it's an illusion, it's a hallucination, it's a delusion. Like nobody actually died. It's just them showing you a weird illusion that's really gruesome and all that. But I don't know. It's strange. This is what I don't like about mystical stuff. Like they have to exist side by side with the regular universe, diba? The regular world of the rest of WWE programming, the sports side of it. Diba? Imagine if the ghost of Kobe Bryant arrived in the NBA Finals and destroyed everyone. Diba? Parang ganun to eh. Diba? I mean, like, yeah, okay. Oh, ito naman si Rose. He's KJ na naman siya with the Bray Wyatt stuff, the spooky stuff. Pero how do you explain this? Like, people are lying around the floor with bullet holes in their heads, and how do you start anew on SmackDown? Not even on next week's Raw, on SmackDown. Diba? Like Triple H was just there. Did he die too? Did he oversee all of this? Did he did he allow the massacre to go on while he was in his office? Umalis pa siya sa arena na nangyari to. Because he was there. We saw him facilitate yung pag-quit ni Drew McIntyre earlier in the night, diba?
Yeah.
So how do you move from there? How do you progress from there? How do you address all of this? Diba? Parang it's one of those things that you do have to suspend your disbelief for, but if you proceed as normal on SmackDown, then something will have to be for nothing. It's either yung debut ng Wyatt 6 is going to be all for nothing, or the business, the regular operations of WWE will be for nothing because this gang will be going around killing people.
So nakakatawa yung mga reactions ng people in the industry. For one, Dijak had a very cheeky tweet where he said, "Oh yeah, this happened to me 4 years ago when I got brainwashed into joining some cult that destroyed stuff backstage. It happened 4 years too early," or something like that.
Diba? Parang separate. This is me jumping the gun because maybe they'll be addressing it on SmackDown. Pero the first thing you address on SmackDown is this, because they killed they destroyed, they annihilated your literal production staff, your production crew, diba?
Yeah.
So kung di mo i-address yun as a boss, what kind of boss would Triple H be?
Right. Merong mga reports na lumabas leading into the Wyatt 6 debut na this group isn't meant to be supernatural, but clearly based on the presentation, there's a very strong supernatural element.
No, okay. Doesn't matter. Like, okay, supernatural or not, mortal or not, the fact remains that they still went around on a crime spree backstage, diba? From the looks of it. So, diba?
Wait, what makes this crime different from the other forms of assault we've seen in wrestling over the years?
Well, nobody got left with a hole in their head, for one. Nobody got left for dead, diba? So, alam mo yun, I mean, you have to address this. What is happening here? Like, okay, are they a bunch of cultists? They're wearing the costumes and they're just committing earthly crimes and all of that. Are they just are they less spooky? Are they less mystical? Are they just really, really vague and cryptic and creepy? Pero kulto pa rin sila na totoong tao. So what's going on here? Like, yeah, obviously these questions are going to be answered. Pero ito yung mga bagay na they typically sweep under the rug because it's self-contained, usually in one story. Like Bray Wyatt used to tell really self-contained stories with whoever he was feuding with in one given time. Diba? Yeah. So I need to know if this is going to be the case for this, because the larger company overall is implied to be affected by this run of the Wyatt Six.
So, okay, sabi mo, it has to be addressed. Putting on your Booker hat, how would you address it come SmackDown? Kasi sabi mo, it's very urgent.
For one, I would need Triple H himself, not Nick Aldis. Adam Pearce, sure. Nick Aldis kung pati yung SmackDown crew patargetin. Pero Triple H has to put his foot down and say like, okay, I let you guys do the Bray Wyatt thing, but this is not what I had in mind. Diba? I didn't want you guys to go destroy everyone in Gorilla. I didn't want you guys to destroy everyone else, your co-workers like Chad Gable. Diba? So, at this point, it has to be a war between WWE and the Wyatt Six. Kasi tinarget nila yung yung kumpanya eh, 'di ba? Eh wala silang pakundaan kung sino yung babanggain nila, 'di ba?
They're called the Wyatt Six, but WWE Shop spells it SICKS. Diba? But obviously, you have the number 6 there on the T-shirt. Also, obviously, there are 5 of them. So, sino yung pang-anim? Ito na ba sila? Like, is Alexa Bliss a part of it? Like, she was rumored to be a part of it. Is there a different 6th person na hindi natin alam? Or is Bray Wyatt spiritually the 6th member of this Wyatt Six?
The 6th man. I think it's going to be someone else. I think, I don't know. Maybe, possibly.
Kasi si Alexa Bliss na lang yung member of the Bray Wyatt universe na wala pa dito.
I guess. I don't know. Probably.
I mean, they attacked Braun, so that takes him out of it.
Oh, I know. So I don't know. I don't really care that much. I just want them now to fix what they started.
Eto, with the WWE and TNA partnership happening, what are the odds of Matt Hardy being pulled in from the TNA universe into this Wyatt Six thing?
Well, he was pushing it, diba? He was pushing it nung nag-umpisa mag-tease yung mga QR codes and all that stuff. Like, I don't know if he was really being factored into the plans, kung kasali talaga siya. But I wouldn't mind because he is part of the universe. He is a partner of Bray Wyatt. So, although parang hindi rin eh, kasi he's already doing his own thing with Jeff. They're not going to be heels. Because if you pull Matt to the Wyatt Six, he's going to have to be a heel, which he is very much not if you saw what he's been doing in TNA since he returned. Diba?
Yeah, especially at this point then in his career. It's kind of hard to root against Matt Hardy. So, all right, those are our, I guess, our larger thoughts on the Wyatt Six and that debut. I know a lot of you want to keep talking about it, so di namin kayo pipigilan. Keep talking about it in the comment section, or if you want, you can tweet us at Wrestling2XPod. Hit us up on TikTok as well. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk about Drew McIntyre quitting, Seth Rollins returning, and Joe Hendry showing up on NXT. But first, a quick word from our other podcasts right here on the Pod Network.
Parents, this is your cheat code to understanding your gamer kid. This is Keri Kita, Guide for Non-Gamer Parents. I'm Ray.
And I'm Joey. Hardcore gamers, hardcore parents. Let's learn from each other. Dito,
Keri Kita.
All right, let's talk about Monday Night Raw, or more stuff rather from Monday Night Raw. CM Punk broke Drew McIntyre. Drew so mad coming out of Clash at the Castle that he took his ball and went home. So, again, obviously, alam naman natin na Drew McIntyre just re-upped with WWE, but the story beat right now is that Drew is sick and tired of CM Punk messing with him, that he just decided to leave.
Yeah, sayang eh, kasi this is the one time I think that the dirt sheets or the rumor sites, the news sites have kind of spoiled a nice story. But all the same, I think na they wrote the story after Drew really re-upped, so they wouldn't have known that ito yung gagawin niya. But it obviously would have made more impact, a bigger impact, kung nag-quit, quote unquote, si Drew before we found out that, he re-upped with WWE, right?
Parang Summer of Punk ng 2011.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny kasi I'm sure they thought of CM Punk when they pitched na, okay, Drew's gonna quit because he's so triggered, he's so mad, right? Like Punk did all those years ago. So that's pretty interesting. Is it going to be also like the WWE Summer of Punk? Now he came back after a few weeks. Kasi they needed him for the next show anyway. How how do you sell this, especially knowing that Drew just signed a new contract? It's interesting. I like the idea. I like where it's going. I always like fake quitting. I like the idea of Drew McIntyre showing up in other places, like with the NWA, because they just did a video with what's his name,
Billy Corgan.
Billy Corgan. Jesus Christ, yeah, yeah. And then the TNA partnership and all that, diba? TNA. Drew was once the champion of TNA, so I like it. It's just that nasayang lang yung big moment niya kasi alam natin hindi naman siya nag-quit talaga.
Mm-hmm. Meron ding report na lumabas this week from the dirt sheets about how everyone who came back or returned or stayed or got attacked, lahat yun intentional, yung putting the pieces in place as regards to the Wyatt Sick6 debut. So clearly Drew being kept out of the Wyatt Sick6 crosshairs was because he was also in a self-contained little story with Punk.
What about Ricochet? What's happening there? Diba?
Yung bali-balita naman with Ricochet is that, di ba, they were planning to see if they could still use him for the remainder of his contract. The latest update on that is that wala na. Like last week was the end of it for Ricochet's character.
At least they still said, no, okay, Ricochet is out indefinitely, and then unlike before, now when he's out, he's out. Like they treat him as though he doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, I don't know how that makes sense. Yung rumor na yun, okay, everyone that came back figured into the plans from Wyatt Sick6. Sorry, excuse me. It doesn't quite it isn't put together yet in my head. So I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks.
Yeah, one thing's for sure, I am enjoying this whole CM Punk and Drew McIntyre thing. So tingnan natin what happens sa homecoming ni CM Punk in Chicago on SmackDown this weekend for the next chapter in this brewing story. In the meantime, Seth Rollins is back on Monday Night Raw. He showed up and he wanted to go for the Money in the Bank briefcase this year, only for Damian Priest to actually challenge him for the World Heavyweight Championship. Sabi ni Damian Priest, I want to defeat you. I want to challenge you. Tayong dalawa, one-on-one at Money in the Bank. What do you think about this from both guys' perspectives?
Yeah, I still wish it was Drew. I still wish it was Drew na yung nanalo sa Clash at the Castle. Like, yeah, okay, I get it now why they did that, because they wanted Drew to do the big quitting thing, which is a nice touch. Pero as I said nung weekend reacts, it's still talo pa rin yung fans, talo pa rin yung Scottish fans. Like you can say all you want that Drew is bouncing back for something bigger, for a bigger money match, but the fans who piled in the OVO Hydro, they wanted Drew. They wanted the hometown guy to win, and I felt like they should have just adjusted for that. But yeah, it's a nice gesture from Damian Priest. Like, but little by little, medyo nawawalan na ako ng interest in his championship reign, mostly because the Judgment Day is being held by the balls by Liv Morgan. Sorry.
Yeah, the specter of Liv Morgan and her flirtations with Dirty Dom is really hanging over the head of the Judgment Day.
Yeah, but I mean, yun eh. Like, okay, even Damian Priest's big world championship reign is now taking a backseat to Dirty Liv, to Flirty Liv.
Yeah, it got to a point where Damian Priest himself tried to break up Liv and Dom backstage, diba? Parang siyang yaya eh. Or parang siyang yung kuya na natus kayo, diba?
Yeah, I mean, like, I know this is fun, pero it was fun when it was just Liv and Dom and Rhea. Tapos, but bigla nasingit na sila, diba? Nasingit na silang lahat. I mean, even Finn has to fight for his life over there by denying that he did some hanky-panky with Liv in the hotel room and all that, diba? In the hotel, motel, Holiday Inn.
And then you have Carlito na consentidor.
I mean, come on. It's funny, yes, kasi all the memes, all the jokes about Liv, pero medyo the whole thing with Damian and Seth now, they're trying to get back the championship on track, the championship reign on track. Pero if you really want to do that, then keep fucking Damian Priest away from the Liv story.
Mm-hmm. Also happening on Raw this week, you've got Sami Zayn with new challengers on the horizon for his Intercontinental Championship. You've got Braun Breaker, who is on meteoric rise, and you've got Sheamus in the gatekeeper role here. So it looks like three-way feud ito heading into Money in the Bank. And with Chad Gable nowhere in sight, it looks like talagang Gable Otis na yung feud niya.
And Ludwig Kaiser. There's Ludwig Kaiser. He was involved in the match as well. Don't forget. So it's gonna be a 4-way. So diba, when Gunther moved away from the Intercontinental Championship scene, papasok si Ludwig Kaiser to facilitate his own singles push. So it's a 4-way feud. I like what they're doing here. Syempre, the more people around the mid card scene, the better. Syempre, we were all in on the whole Chad Gable thing, on the whole Chad Gable push, but. I guess Gable also wanted to elevate Otis along with him, diba? So if you look at it that way, then it makes sense for sure. So it's just one of those things. Okay, ito pala yung gusto niya or ito yung gusto nila. So wala tayong magagawa din. But I don't know. I think okay, this has to be a Braun win. This whole thing. We'll get to the predictions eventually, but I feel like if this isn't leading to a Braun win, then what else? Here I go again. What else are they gonna? What else are we doing here?
The Sheamus Grand Slam.
Yeah, pero parang hindi na yung priority for any of them. Even Sheamus.
I guess. I mean, it's way better than your next feud being against St. Peter. Good job, Doc G. But yeah, I'm liking this. I'm pretty intrigued kasi it's fresh, it's new, diba? We expected Chad Gable to be Intercontinental Champion by now. He's not, but yung consuelo doon is Sami Zayn gets to fight Braun Breaker, gets to fight Sheamus, gets to fight Ludwig Kaiser, diba? I think it would be interesting to see any of those three taking the Intercontinental Championship away from Sami Zayn.
Sure. Yeah. I think we've come to a point that okay, Sami Zayn has been established as the guy who beat Gunther. It's time for the chains to keep moving, as they say.
Time for him to pay it forward, diba? All right, the moment you guys have been waiting for. Say his name, and he appears.
I believe in Joe Hendry.
Joe Hendry on NXT, like a minute or two into the broadcast, that familiar tune played, and he actually showed up, mic in hand. When this happened, I was doing the dishes after breakfast. Napasigaw ako, tapos napasigaw yung mga aso ko. So, it was pretty loud in the C household when Joe Hendry appeared. Good for him, but he didn't last long in that battle royal. But on the bright side, yung nag-eliminate sa kanya was Frankie Kazarian, who he's been feuding with on TNA. So imagine that. A TNA storyline being forwarded on WWE television, being integrated into WWE canon. And if you were looking at WWE social media after the show or after that battle royal, they showed a video of Joe Hendry mouthing off at Shawn Michaels in the back. So that should tell you na that's not the last time we're seeing Joe Hendry on NXT. So nireport ng Fightful that he will be making more appearances because WWE officials were very happy with the reaction he got on Tuesday night or on Wednesday on NXT. And Fightful reports further na the NXT and TNA crossover is going to continue because whatever's going on right now is far from over. So what do you think about this huge development, Ro?
Yeah, I made it a point to say na I made it a point to point out yung involvement of Frankie Kazarian. Because people were complaining, but eliminate against Joe Hendry. Bakit 1 second pala or 1 minute or wala pang 1 minute na natanggal na siya? Because Frankie Kazarian eliminated him. And it shows who isn't actually watching TNA and who is only bandwagoning the whole Joe Hendry. But yeah, if you did at least see the last pay-per-view, which is against All Odds no weekend, you would know that they did have a match. Kazarian and him had a match, and Kazarian beat him. So they have a thing going. That's why Kazarian was the guy to be the one to eliminate Joe Hendry. So the whole NXT got Joe Hendry, WWE got Joe Hendry. That's one thing. That's huge. But you can do that. You can dick ride any trending superstar right now. The bigger thing that they really did that we should really give them credit for is to take a TNA storyline and keep and keep it going in NXT, which they kind of did with kay Ash by Elegance and Jordan Grace last week. But alam mo yun, the fact that they are okay with giving some of their TV time, granted not a lot, but some of it, to the stories that are being told on another company, on another TV show, that's huge. You never would have seen that. You never would have seen that under the old man, but it's like in mga GMA stars invading its showtime. We are in a new era, yo. It's crazy, guys. So that's the thing. I know people will be super hyped about Joe Hendry, which is totally fine. But I really want you guys to appreciate what they did for TNA here. Like, even though Shepard, a TNA guy is never going to be NXT champion. Kahit NXT pa man yan, diba? Even though a TNA guy would be way more experienced than a Trick Williams. Alam mo yun, it's still a big thing that they are willing to play ball and give some exposure, if you will, to the little brother in TNA.
Yeah, I think to just piggyback off your point, Ro, it's not just putting over individuals, because in this case, when you push forward another company's stories on your show, you're putting that other company over. And that's great for the business.
Diba?
Yeah. Especially given WWE's reach, their platform is much larger than TNA. It's crazy that we live in a world where this TNA story is actually on WWE TV, when 20 years ago TNA was taking pot shots at WWE the way AEW is doing now.
Yeah. It's wait, ano ba to? Ayun, yun. So speaking of AEW, so it's not a coincidence that NXT and WWE is working with TNA. Kasi this is Forbidden Door season for AEW. They wanted to do something to steal the thunder away from AEW. So, isip ko, AEW had the TNA partnership a few years ago. I don't know what happened to that. I've never seen any news stories about that, about why that isn't a thing anymore. Like, Kenny Omega became Impact Champion. Christian became Impact Champion. Tapos, after wala na. Then now, WWE is the one getting views off of Joe Hendry, when AEW could have been that and should have been that. While they're not doing anything wrong by having NJPW CMLL guys, nanalo pa rin si WWE kasi Joe Hendry is the guy right now. No matter what you feel about him, no matter what everyone else feels about him, he's the major viral guy. I open TikTok, and whenever I see a wrestling account, it's usually a Joe Hendry meme. So that's how big. Oh, that's how big it is. That's how big he is. Kaya, I don't know why. AEW had a lot of time to secure the Joe Hendry bag, but they did not, and I don't understand why.
I mean, good for WWE, diba? We've said so much about the Paul Levesque era. A lot of the good. We've also talked about the bad, but this is clearly one of the highlights of the 2024 chapter of the Paul Levesque era. Them capitalizing on Joe Hendry, the TNA crossover, Shawn Michaels being an active part of it, diba? Seeing these TNA guys interacting with HBK, dun palang nagagago na ako eh.
Yeah. I don't even know if HBK knows any of that. I don't know.
What I love about the Joe Hendry and HBK clip is Joe Hendry did all of the talking, and then Shawn Michaels was reduced to being a backstage correspondent, just staring off into the distance until nag-fade to black.
And we don't know what Shawn Michaels was looking at,
or thinking. Yeah, baka ano pala, yung Wyatt Sick6 nagbabadya pala. That's going to do it for part 1 of the audio-only version of our live stream. If you refresh your feed right now, dito sa Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, part 2 should be available, where we talk about AEW and all of the developments coming out of Dynamite from this week. Until then, this has been Stan C, and on behalf of my co-hosts Ro Moran, Emil Nate, Chino Liao, and Rowan ASH, this has been another episode of the Wrestling Podcast. Stay safe, stay dry, and don't be a dick. Wrestling Podcast. Out. Later, Outcasts.
Peace.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.